The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
I am your resident expert, bringing you all the emotional deep dives and behind-the-scenes reactions.
And I am here to break down the facts and timelines for you, because today we are unpacking a headline that has literally broken the internet. The title of this deep dive is Jelly Roll and Bunnie Xo just did something nobody expected.
Which is honestly the understatement of the century, because we are talking about a situation that went from an absolute cinematic high to a complete crash in record time.
Exactly. Picture the scene for a second. It is February 1st, 2026. Jelly Roll has just won 3 Grammy Awards.
Right.
And his wife, Bunnie Xo, is in a separate hotel room when the first win is announced. She's in a bathrobe and she just takes off.
Oh my gosh, I saw that video.
Right. She is sprinting down the hotel hallways, down the elevators. A camera crew is desperately chasing her just so she can find him and give him this massive hug.
It was such a raw, beautiful moment of triumph. Like, you are looking at this couple that has fought through absolute, unbelievable hardship to get to the very top of the mountain.
But then you fast forward a mere 76 days.
And Jelly Roll files for divorce.
Which left everyone, and I mean everyone watching, completely stunned. Because this was not a slow fade from the public eye.
No, not at all.
This is a sudden, massive drop from the absolute pinnacle of their shared success. So today, we are bypassing the typical celebrity gossip.
We really are. We brought receipts. We have the court filings from Williamson County, Tennessee, timeline breakdowns, and Jelly Roll's own YouTube vlogs.
We also have an incredibly revealing hour-long episode of Bunnie Xo's Dumb Blonde podcast. And the goal of this deep dive is to figure out the mechanics of this collapse for you.
Because the big question is, how does a couple survive poverty, prison records, and infidelity, but completely shatter under the weight of massive, dream-come-true success?
To understand the unraveling, we have to examine the architecture of their foundation. If we go back to 2015, they met at the Las Vegas Country Saloon.
Right, and their lives were so different back then. Jelly Roll, whose real name is Jason DeFord, was a former convict. He was entirely broke, living out of a '96 conversion van, just hustling rap mixtapes.
And Bunnie, Elisa DeFord, had survived a deeply abusive childhood. According to Variety in her own memoir, she was working as an escort in Vegas just to keep her head above water.
She wrote that when they shook hands, it was like their souls recognized each other.
I have to challenge that romantic narrative a bit, though.
Yeah.
When you look at the timeline, it looks less like two souls magically recognizing each other and more like a trauma bond born out of pure desperation.
Oh, absolutely. They were both in total survival mode.
Right. And what you're identifying there is the mechanism of co-regulation in a state of chronic stress.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when two people are fighting severe external threats, like extreme poverty or addiction, or the custody battles Jelly Roll was fighting for his daughter, Bailey, their nervous systems kind of sync up.
Oh, wow. So the shared trauma actually becomes the glue.
Exactly. They aren't connecting over like shared hobbies or weekend plans. They are connecting over a mutual mission to simply survive until tomorrow.
And that survival instinct pushes people to make massive leaps. Because the timeline here is frantic. They get married in August 2016 at a tiny Vegas chapel.
But the detail that really highlights that chaotic foundation is that they eloped exactly 1 week after Jelly Roll welcomed a son, Noah, with another woman.
Which is wild. Most people would see a newborn from another relationship as a glaring red stop sign.
But from the perspective of someone trapped in a trauma bond, that chaos just feels familiar. It feels like a problem to solve.
So overnight, at 34 years old, having never been a mother, Bunnie steps in. She becomes a stepmom to 2 kids and actually continues working in the adult industry to financially keep the family afloat.
Just so Jelly Roll can build his music career.
Yeah.
Which, sets up an immense imbalance.
A huge imbalance. And 2 years later, in 2018, that foundation cracks. TMZ reported that Jelly Roll had a 10-month affair with a woman waiting in a hotel just down the street from them.
That is insane. So Bunnie moves back to Vegas, and the marriage is seemingly over.
But instead of just launching a public attack on him, she does something really analytical. She starts looking at her own psychological patterns, asking why she keeps attracting chaotic men.
That level of introspection is super rare in Hollywood.
Yeah.
They eventually try couples therapy, which The sources note devolved into screaming matches.
Yeah, it was messy. But Jelly Roll goes to Vegas, fights to win her back, and they slowly rebuild. And over the next few years, they actually achieve the impossible.
He crosses over into mainstream country music and starts playing stadiums. And Bunnie builds a highly lucrative podcasting brand. By August 2023, they are back at that same Vegas chapel, renewing their vows.
Which makes the breaking point just 2.5 years later so confusing for anyone watching.
Right. They hit the Grammys, the stadium tours with Post Malone, the best-selling memoir that Bunnie releases in February 2026, and then Mother's Day, May 2026, everything just halts.
According to Bunnie's podcast, they had actually stopped having difficult conversations over the past year and a half. The communication just dried up.
So what happened on Mother's Day?
An argument breaks out. She didn't share the exact specifics of the fight, but she described an overwhelming sense of exhaustion. She looked at him and delivered an ultimatum.
What did she say?
She literally said, well, then file the thieving divorce papers.
Wow. And because she is someone who historically never throws that word around as an empty threat, it carried real weight.
Exactly. Jelly Roll filed the papers on May 18th, citing irreconcilable differences.
I want to propose a metaphor for you to explain this, because earlier we talked about trauma bonds. It feels like their relationship was a car engine designed to redline while climbing a steep, incredibly muddy hill.
Oh, I like this analogy.
It functions perfectly under that extreme violent stress. But once you finally reach the top of the mountain and park that car on a flat, paved driveway, the engine just burns itself out.
Because it literally does not know how to idle.
Exactly. When the external threats disappear, when there's suddenly plenty of money, no immediate crisis, the adrenaline drops.
And in that quiet space, all those internal incompatibilities suddenly have room to surface. They look across the dinner table and realize they don't actually know how to relate to each other without a crisis to solve.
But you would think a realization like that would lead to a devastating, bitter split.
Right. Normally the knives come out.
Exactly. When the adrenaline wears off, resentment usually floods in. But that isn't what is happening here, and it shifts this story from a standard celebrity breakup into bizarre, completely uncharted territory.
And if you're loving these Hollywood twists so far, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and you do not want to miss what we uncover next.
You really don't, because normally in these situations, it's leaked stories to the tabloids and bitter asset wars. But Jelly Roll and Bunnie are actively cross-promoting their divorce.
It is the most collaborative, PR-savvy uncoupling we have ever seen. You have to look at how intentionally they are dismantling the brand they built together.
Jelly Roll literally posts a video to his YouTube channel called The Divorce Vlog.
I could not believe that when I saw it.
Right. He is out on a massive stadium tour with Post Malone, and he films himself calling Bunnie on speakerphone. They are laughing together.
And he looks at the camera and tells his millions of fans, y'all thought we were going to hate each other, didn't you? Plot twist, bitches.
And then he actively directs his audience to go listen to her podcast to hear the details of the split.
And on that podcast, Bunnie mirrors the exact same energy. She steps right into the role of his public hype woman for the dating market.
It's wild to listen to. She tells her audience that Jelly Roll has lost 200 pounds, that he is healthier than he's ever been.
She even throws in that he is hopped up on testosterone and ready to date, telling fans that his DMs are open and they should shoot their shot.
Who does that for their ex-husband days after the divorce filing?
Someone who is completely secure in her own path, but notice the specifics of what she says he needs. She tells her listeners he needs a really sweet girl who is normal and isn't trying to be an influencer.
So she openly acknowledges that he requires the complete opposite of who she is.
Exactly. And simultaneously, she shuts down any rumors that infidelity caused the split. Specifically, there was this persistent internet rumor involving her and Chad Kroeger from Nickelback.
Right, I saw that circulating on TikTok.
Yeah, she's shut that down by explicitly stating she is staying single to just be a player.
So the question I have to pose to you is about the mechanics behind this extreme friendliness. Are we witnessing a true masterclass in emotional maturity and radical acceptance?
Or, and this is my theory, is this just the dawn of a new era of divorce monetization?
Where a painful life event is cleanly repackaged as a content collaboration so neither brand loses market share.
The reality is that it operates as both. Because for modern media personalities, the personal and the financial are inextricably linked.
You can have genuine love and respect for a former partner, recognizing that the romantic phase is over.
But you also possess the media literacy to know that a messy public war will destroy both of your empires. Handling the split amicably and publicly is mutually beneficial.
You control the narrative, you retain your shared fan base, and you avoid catastrophic legal fees. Which brings us to the actual legal untangling of their assets.
And this is where things usually get so ugly. Ego usually flares up the second real estate gets involved. So how did they split this massive empire?
By completely redefining who gets what, without the typical scorekeeping. Jelly Roll is walking away from the massive Tennessee compound they spent the last year building as their dream home.
He just gave it up.
Yes, he is signing it entirely over to Bunnie.
Oh, wow. And what she is doing with this compound is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, break it down for us because it sounds like a reality show waiting to happen.
It really does. So it has 3 separate houses on the property. She's taking one, and she is moving her manager and hairstylist, Mimi Shahan, into another.
Okay, so keeping her inner circle close.
Very close. And her celebrity makeup artist friend, Haley Clark, is eventually moving in as well. She is essentially building an influencer commune.
And she's moving all their sanctuary animals there too, right?
Yep. The Scottish Highland cows, horses, donkeys, pigs. It is a physical manifestation of her independence.
She is creating a self-sustaining ecosystem where she is surrounded by her support network, completely insulated from the traditional expectations of a divorced woman.
And hey, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because we are about to get into the real reason they split.
Right, because beneath this very shiny collaborative PR rollout, there are deep, fundamental ideological splits that force this separation.
The sources point to a massive divergence in how they view the world and their places in it.
If you track their career trajectories over the last few years, according to Variety and other industry reports, the friction becomes super obvious.
Jelly Roll's life has moved aggressively in a faith-centered, health-focused direction.
His music tackles redemption and faith, and he recently won a Grammy for contemporary Christian music for his song Hard Fought Hallelujah.
And that inherently clashes with Bunnie's entire public identity. Bunnie's brand is outspoken, heavily provocative, and deeply rooted in her adult industry past.
And that unapologetic nature isn't just an act for her, it is authentic to who she is.
Precisely. And when your personal brand is your authentic self, compromising means literally erasing your identity.
She wasn't willing to shrink her personality or sanitize her past to fit the mold of a traditional Christian country music wife.
Insider sources noted this ideological divide became impossible to navigate. They weren't just growing apart, they were growing in opposite directions.
And we should be clear, neither of them is objectively wrong for the path they chose. They're just absolutely incompatible under the same roof.
But while the adults have the emotional vocabulary to process this and build communes and cross-promote podcasts, we really have to look at the collateral damage.
Because the kids are absorbing the shockwaves. Let's focus on 17-year-old Bailey Ann, Jelly Roll's daughter, whom Bunnie has essentially raised since 2015.
Bunnie addressed this on her podcast with striking candor. She admitted that Bailey is incredibly angry with her.
Which totally makes sense when you understand the parenting dynamic they establish. Bunnie explained that she was always the strict, disciplining parent.
She was the one holding the boundaries and enforcing the rules. Meanwhile, Jelly Roll played the role of the fun dad.
So naturally, in the fallout of a divorce, the teenager's anger is going to be directed squarely at the disciplinarian.
It is a textbook psychological reaction to family separation. A teenager experiencing a profound sense of loss often cannot process the grief directly.
Right, anger is a much easier secondary emotion to express.
Exactly. They need a target for their pain. And the parent who historically enforced boundaries just becomes the safest target.
But Bunnie's strategic response to that anger is what really caught my attention. She stated, if she wants to be mad at me for 2 years, I'll deal with it. But when she's ready to come back, I will always be there for her.
She is completely detaching her own ego from her stepdaughter's reaction.
She is playing the long game of parenting.
She really is. She is holding space for the child's grief without internalizing it as a permanent rejection. That requires immense emotional regulation.
Because she understands that teenagers need to individuate. And sometimes that requires pushing a parent away to test if the unconditional love actually holds.
Which paints a picture of 2 people moving toward very separate, highly compartmentalized lives.
And later in the episode, we'll talk about this shocking twist nobody saw coming. Oh wait, we are there right now. This is the moment in our deep dive where the sources deliver a detail that defies all conventional logic.
Brace yourself, because before the divorce, They had been highly public about their struggles with IVF and their intention to have a child via surrogate.
Bunnie even detailed in her February memoir that they had finally found a surrogate to carry twins.
And logic dictates that a divorce filing immediately halts a process like that.
Right. Most people would pull the plug instantly. But despite the separation, despite moving into separate homes, and despite Jelly Roll actively entering the dating scene,
Bunnie revealed that they are still moving forward with having a baby together.
it is absolutely mind-blowing. The pregnancy with a surrogate is apparently further along than the public realizes.
She insisted they are going to co-parent this child, whom she affectionately refers to as Little Nugget, as one big happy family.
I have to stop you. The cognitive dissonance here is staggering. Think about the mechanics of this for a second.
I know, it's a lot to process.
They cannot live together as husband and wife because their fundamental lifestyles, religious beliefs, and daily habits clash too violently. But they possess the absolute confidence that they can co-parent a newborn infant. While he is out dating normal, sweet girls, and she is running a commune full of makeup artists and livestock. How does that actually work?
It requires a radical ability to compartmentalize. They're essentially viewing the romantic marriage as a completed, closed project, and the baby as an entirely new, separate project.
They're detaching the concept of a parenting partnership from the requirement of a romantic relationship.
Yes, exactly. They are approaching this family structure almost like a cooperative business venture rather than a romantic ideal.
But it demands a suspension of everything society has taught us about how families are supposed to function. The emotional logistics alone, navigating new partners, global stadium tours, influencer brand management, and infant sleep schedules, it seems impossible to untangle.
It does seem impossible, but if you look back at that timeline we established at the beginning, when have Jelly Roll and Bunnie Xo ever operated within the bounds of what society expected?
That is a very fair point.
From the moment they met in that conversion van, their entire existence has been built on defying statistical probabilities.
Which forces us, and you listening, to evaluate what a successful relationship actually looks like. If we synthesize everything we've pulled from these sources today, we are confronting a deeply ingrained societal narrative.
You really are. We are taught that a marriage is only successful if it ends in death. If it ends in a courtroom, we stamp it with the label of a failed marriage.
But that binary definition ignores the actual utility of human connection. Bunnie stated publicly that without Jelly Roll, she would not be the woman she is today.
And Jelly Roll has loudly proclaimed to the world that Bunnie saved his life.
They intercepted each other during a season of extreme life-or-death survival. They pulled each other out of the mud.
They survived the van, they beat the addiction, they broke generational cycles of trauma.
And the fact that they outgrew the marriage once they reached the absolute top of the mountain doesn't erase the reality that they kept each other alive at the bottom.
Exactly. A relationship can fully complete its purpose without lasting forever. It did exactly what it needed to do.
Which brings us back to that incredible opening image. Bunnie Xo in her bathrobe, sprinting down the hotel hallway, desperate to celebrate Jelly Roll's Grammy win.
Today, they are sprinting down completely separate hallways, living completely different lives.
But they are still loudly, publicly cheering for each other. So here's the thought I want to leave you with to mull over.
Think about this.
If two people can legally end a marriage, build a communal sanctuary for friends and farm animals, cheerfully cross-promote their divorce on a YouTube vlog, and confidently prepare to co-parent a newborn via surrogate.
Does the traditional tragic definition of a broken home even exist anymore?
Or are we simply entering a new era where the structure of a family is completely unapologetically customizable?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.